Shalom, shalom. Welcome to Supporting Yah's Cornerstone. My name is Heshra'ah, and that name means moved by Yah. So today is a what I've read video where I just share with you some of the books I've read over the years, and that's about it. But today I'm going to talk about the Great Ages of Man series. I paused because I wanted to look at my notes to say the name of the series correctly, but it's called the Great Ages of Man series, and I'm gonna look for a second. I think it's by Time Life. Yeah, it's by Time Life Books. So there are a lot of books in the series. I've read 4 of them, but there are many more books that's a part of that particular series. So the books that I've read from the series are Imperial Rome, Imperial Rome, and Byzantium, classical Imperial Rome, classical Greece, and early Islam. Yeah. So those are the 4 from the series that I have read. But as I said before, there are many books in the Great Ages of Man series that Time Life Books have done. The books cover the history of a variety of nations. What they did was in many volumes of the book, in the different volumes, they covered a nation in almost each one. Now, some of the books cover a particular time period, but then there's a portion of that series that covers a variety of nations, and each book will cover like one nation. If I look down, I'm just looking down at my notes. Now, how did I come about reading these books? Well, some years ago, my husband had discovered a volume of books by Mr. Will Durant, and he came across one in particular that was called The Age. The Age of Faith. Okay, and by Mr. Will Durant. And he has many volumes. I can't think of how many. I want to say, well, it's 11 volumes to this series by Will Durant. And The Age of Faith is the 4th volume. The Story of Civilization, the 4th volume, The Age of Faith. So when he discovered that book and he just started to read it, then he wanted me to read the book in homeschool at the time. So I got the book and I started looking through the table of contents and I started to read it. I think I started to read it first, but it was, at that time, I thought it might be too much in how it was written for homeschool. I thought it was going to be a lot, but I think I was going to go ahead and read it because I think I wrote the table of contents so I could kind of follow, keep up with it for homeschool. And this one volume, the volumes are very informative, but this one volume has a little over 1,000 pages. Okay, this one. And then when it comes to the history of nations too, certain things used to confuse me when it breaks down to nations and the tribes, different tribes and things like that. So I wasn't sure exactly how long it was going to take us to do in homeschool, and with me trying to explain things in the best way, making sure that I understood how it was, the story was being told, and then being able to, as we read through it, to be able to explain things properly at the time. But as I was thinking about all that before I even started reading in homeschool, and I'm just looking down at my notes, I used to, which we still do, go to the library almost every week. And so most of the libraries, whichever ones we go to in our area, have a library book sale. And so one particular time we were visiting, I went to the library book sale. In the library book sale, there was a few of these books for sale. And I picked one up and I opened it and I started reading, and it reminded me of some of what I saw in the Will Durant's The Age of Faith book. And so I said, I'm going to go ahead and buy it. I didn't try to just sit there and read, completely through it then. I said, I'm going to just buy it. In the library book sale, it was maybe a dime or a quarter or whatever you want to donate. So I bought the book and I brought it home, and then I started to read it. It was either about Rome or Greece. I'm not sure exactly at the time. But I brought it home to read it. And when I started reading it, it reminded me of Will Durant's The Age of Faith, but a more condensed, and it was written in a way that I just completely understood it. How they ordered it, I understood it. And so I thought, okay, so I took the table of contents of the Age of Faith in that volume of Will Durant's book and tried to kind of match it up with the series of books of the Great Ages of Man series. Okay. So as Will Durant might have been talking about Rome and these things, then we would read the series, or Greece, then we would read from this, one of the Great Ages of Man books. And so those books were real informative. I didn't feel like we missed a whole lot of anything by reading those in the place of Will Durant's Age of Faith. Now, I'm sure he included a lot more detailed information. But I think with the series that we ended up reading some of the books from the Great Ages of Man series, I think really got a good overall view of those nations that we read about. Just another quick point. Well, I'll get to that a little bit later. But I just wanted, and I wouldn't discourage anyone from reading The Age of Faith and Will Durant's other books, because he gives a very, very detailed information about different nations all over the world, their history, their practices, which is good to know, because some of the things, especially as Hebrew Israelites, we may be doing in the different countries and places where we are, we may be practicing pagan worship. I mean, you just never know, But Will Durant talks about a variety of things in his book, The Age of Faith, and he has 10 other volumes that cover in detail different nations all over the world and their history. And the Great Ages of Man series covers in their series of books almost all the major world powers that are spoken of in the book of Daniel, except for one, I think, and that's Babylon. I'm not sure that the Great Ages of Man series includes covering Babylon, but all the other kingdoms, world powers that were spoken of in the book of Daniel in the Bible, they have those nations as a part of their series. When I look down, I'm just looking down at my notes. In this video, I really want to take the time to just talk about, after reading the books we read from the Great Ages of Man series, like the effect it had on my thinking concerning history. Okay, so that's what I'll do in this video, and then if y'all will, in the next What I've Read video, I'll go into more detail about the books that we read in homeschool from that series and what I got out of them. And so, but in this video, I just wanted to introduce you to the books and tell you how I started to come about in reading the ones that we did, and just and to talk about what my thoughts ended up being on history after reading those books. Number one, it brought the prophecies in the Old Testament to life, especially those written of in the book of Daniel. That's what I really realized, was how true the prophecies were. Okay, really, it just reminded me of them, because it followed, especially from the book of Daniel, it followed line for line. When you read the series, it follows line for line the world powers that would rise and fall in the prophecies that were told to Daniel. Not only that, as towards the end of each book that we read, as those nations were falling, how they fell was always there were some things that were all common, and then there was always this little odd factor where it almost seemed like they should have stayed in power, but then there was a twist of fate, so to speak, and they didn't. And in my case, I knew that twist of fate wasn't a twist of fate, that it was Yah. That it was their time to fall, that was over, and he was moving it along. So that's one thing I noticed out of that too. But it brought the scripture really to life. Another thing that occurred too, as the Creator gave us laws, statutes, and judgments to follow. He gave us things all through the scripture not to do. And when you read the history of these nations, then it's like everything Yah was telling us not to do was a lot of things a lot of different nations were actually doing. And you read the history of these nations, a lot of things that Hebrew Israelites were forbidden to do, when it says that at the end, like in Leviticus, I want to say 18, when it lists like all those different immoral acts, and then it says at the end that the Creator threw out other nations out of the land because they did these things. And then you start to read history of different people where they did a variety of the different things the Creator asked the nation of Israel not to do. And so it reminded me of that too. It helped me realize other nations are not better than my own. It really brought that to light. So I'm going to say that being more knowledgeable about history and the history of other nations increased my self-esteem as a colored person, as a Hebrew Israelite person. Sometimes your thoughts of a people being better than you is just really an illusion and lack of knowledge of the history of those people or who those people really are. And that's what I realized. Sometimes I think of what it says in the scripture. It says that Israel, we would be jealous of a no people. It's like you'd be jealous of somebody that's nothing. What you think they all about. It's not even that. You jealous like of an illusion or something. Because what you think they are not. And so that's what those books kind of, it really made me help to any thoughts in my mind that might have been like some other nations were superior to my own. It really started to bring that down too, or eliminate that more. Next, I really saw how history can repeat itself. And you really see that, and you really begin to see how history really can repeat itself. Some things from hundreds of years ago are happening today. And so that was a highlight I got from it too. Now, some of my other thoughts that came from me reading those books, I read others since then, not as a part of the Great Age of Man series, but books that were just kind of strictly historical type books, just strictly that. I've gotten things from those too. But overall, my thoughts concerning history from reading these books was that we can't change history, but by knowing it, we can change or impact the future. Because many ideals have been done and most ideals of life have been practiced before, history can help us determine what our actions should and shouldn't be today. And so that's just a couple of thoughts that reading those books kind of gave me concerning history overall. Is that you definitely see what works, what doesn't work. It helps you to understand what's happening in your time now, especially when the same things that failed in the past are reoccurring during your lifetime. Then you understand what different things actually mean. Okay, like you hear people say, "Well, we're in the end times." Well, how do you know you in the end times? When you read history, you'll know if you at the end of a kingdom or not, for sure. Because all the great powers ended about the same way, with the certain same conditions is what you find. Whether you read Mr. Will Durant's book, The Age of Faith, or any of his other volumes, or you read the books from the Great Ages of Man series. Most of the great powers, their end pictures the same. Okay, the only difference is you probably can eliminate the internet and television and electric lights. You can eliminate some of the modern conveniences, but everything else toward the end basically the same. And so that's another thing history lets you know. It lets you know what you're looking at during your time a lot of times. History can answer the questions, who are you following? And when it say who is, what is the history of the nation that you in? Whether you in Japan, China, United States, Brazil, Israel, Africa, any part of Africa, pick a country in Africa, whichever one of them. Whether you're in Asia, history can answer the question, what nation are you in? Whose ideas are you following or implementing? Whatever nation you're in or a part of, are you following their ideas? What ideas are you following? Why do you do what you do? Why do you celebrate certain days? Certain days you don't. Why do you do certain things a certain way? History answers those questions for you, even with what you read. What words are you looking at? What are those words? Are you calling out the names of gods? History will show you that, because people served different nations serve different gods. Okay. You'll realize as if you're here in America that America's culture is made up of some varieties of other nations' cultures. So history answers those questions. Who are you following? What ideas are you following? Why do you live how you live? History can answer that. Where do these ideas lead? Where did it lead to people who practiced them in the past, whatever nation started it? What was the end for them, or what were the results for them? Did they have good results? Did they have bad results? History answers all that, and it answers all of it in a truthful way, because there's when you have historians that really just document, for the most part, what was happening during that time, or what the records show that was left, then basically you have just pure truth. Now, all history books don't do that, because sometimes the people that write them, depending on what nation they are, they like to flatter themselves. But a true historian, for the most part, and a very good history book, it's going to be 70 to 80% just pure fact, pure truth, not trying to make myself look good, my nation look good, or anything like that, which sometimes people get caught up into, but it's just going to be straight fact. So I think for the most part, Will Durant does that. And for the most part, from what I've seen, the Great Ages of Man series does that. As well as some other history books we've read, and hopefully I get to share those in this series too. History also breaks down delusions and brings the truth to the surface. So history breaks down any false ideas, anything that you might have thought but you didn't know. History tears those things down and brings the truth to the surface, because fact is fact, and what didn't happen didn't happen. What did happen did happen, and so that's that's what history does too. And so, especially when your sources are very good and you're dealing with sources who is 70 to 80% just pure fact, laying it out how it is or how it was. And sometimes, I'll say this, you have to be careful what you're reading concerning history, because that's what you want. You want mostly fact. It's hard to get 100% fact sometimes, but 70 to 80% is you're doing pretty good when you have books that's doing that. And Will Durant series does that, and the Great Ages of Man series, the books I listed, I know they do that. But history is something that I think everybody should read. If you out of the habit of reading, then some books are being read on YouTube. There are people, as I said before, who read books on YouTube. So you might be able to type in on YouTube, The Age of Faith by Will Durant, and somebody might be actually reading that book. You may be able to type in The Great Ages of Man book series, and it may be somebody reading their volume of the classical Greece or Imperial Rome. It may be somebody actually reading that. And so just remember that. Or there's always the Audible app. But YouTube is basically free, but you may find some of these books on Audible too, so you can listen to them. So that's an option too. But I hope to share with you more history books that I have read, that my family has read, or members of my family have read, and that I have read myself. And so it'll give you a nice list of historical books to read, because we have a lot more that's purely, for the most part, facts. When I say for the most part, because, sometimes when people writing these things, they're going to incorporate their little where they trying to, especially depending on what race they are, where they don't want to look that bad and whatever. But so that's why I kind of am leaving room for some time when maybe people shift a little. But hopefully I can share some of the other ones also, because we have the Creator blessed us to come across some real good history books that are for the most part factual. History is just, like I said before, it really helped bring the Old Testament to life for me. And to come out of any kind of mystical thinking, concerning it. Because sometimes we have that kind of thinking, if not a lot, sometimes a little. But reading history brings you out of that. It helps you see what Yah is telling you and what the prophets was telling us and what our mores are teaching us. It make it more and more clearer when you read history. So hopefully in the next video, if Yah's will, in the What I've Read series, I'll read a little out of each book that I read out of the Great Ages of Man series by Time Life. And what I got from them, I'll share, if Yah's will, with you in the next episode of What I've Read. If you have any comments, please feel free to leave them at the bottom of this video. If you want to contact me, then you can email me at yahscornerstone@gmail.com. yahscornerstone@gmail.com. And you can also comment and follow me on Instagram at Supporting Yah's Cornerstone. And Supporting Yah's Cornerstone also has a Facebook page. You can also leave comments for me there. But the quickest way is going to be through YouTube and email and Instagram. I haven't gotten as regular on Facebook yet. So to send me any comment or video suggestion or anything quicker, then email or leave a comment at the bottom of the video, or you can leave it on Instagram. But I hope you found that this was helpful, and shalom, shalom.